Hey everyone, I'm Coach Mike Ketchuk, and I'm on a mission to help you become your potential. Today I'm in conversation with certified leadership and life coach Charles Suwasing. He helps entrepreneurs, individuals, couples, and teams find more fulfillment, joy, and aliveness. I think that's something that's in short supply in too many lives these days. Charles, you and I met through our evolutionary men's group, the Universal Brotherhood, and I'm going to embarrass you a little bit by saying that I think you're a great example of the group's core tenets of integrity, compassion, wisdom. Great to reconnect with you, Charles, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you again.
Yes, and why don't I start with a question about age? Because it's on my mind. I'm turning 40 in December, and you have a story on your website about turning 40. And when you did that, you asked yourself, "Is this it?" I'm asking myself a lot of these reflective type of questions. Do you have any advice for people who are reaching these birthdays with a zero at the end?
Do I have advice for? I don't know if I have specific advice, but the beautiful thing about that zero is for some people it could be a new beginning. It could be another is a demarcation of a chapter, maybe.
Yes.
Right. So when I got to 40, I had really took an audit of where I was in my life and realized, okay, there were certain parts of my life I was not happy in. I wasn't fulfilled in. And okay, what did I want the next 10 years of my life to look like? Right.
Yeah.
And so I think reflection and imagining and questioning, I think that just everybody should be doing it. I think you should always be doing it. But I think there's that, when you have that milestone hit you, it's like, okay, what did I do the last 10 years?
It's an opportunity to reflect and make some changes. And so how old are you now? How long ago was this realization?
Well, I'm 51 now. So that was, a couple of zeros ago.
And I assume that having that conversation with yourself led to some amazing changes in your life and realizations.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. No, it changed my career path. It changed my relationship with my friends, my family, changed my perspective of marriage, my relationship with my kids. Yeah, I really did a lot of work at 40.
Beautiful.
And I would say at 51 now, most of it has worked out pretty good.
Yes, great. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
And I also noticed that much of your coaching work is about helping your clients rewrite their life story.
Yeah.
What sort of clients come to you, and what sort of stories do you help them to write?
Well, it's funny because I've been coaching now nearly 8-9 years now, and I would say my clients have evolved or changed or shifted. I don't know if it's because of my energy or maybe where I am in life, and they come to me, whatever. But most of them they come because they have a work challenge or a life challenge or something like that. They might have been promoted to a new job, which is going to be more demanding, or they're starting a business and they're not sure how to navigate that, or they've hit a milestone in their relationship and they want to spur some more fulfillment or inspiration in that too. But what we discover in the coaching is that what they're asking for is only a portion of what they're going to get out of coaching. And that's the surprise part. That's the magic.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what we unpack in our coaching work is the stories that they have about who they are and what success looks like and what love looks like, what fulfillment looks like and whatnot. And what they discover in that is that the story that they've been living in is actually the story that they don't want. And what I mean is, by story, I mean their perspective of their world, their perspective of work, their perspective of relationships, their perspectives of money, and even of self. Am I strong enough? Am I smart enough? Am I in the, and so when they discover the stories that they tell themselves about who they are and how they're being, they realize, that's not the way I want to be.
Yeah. I think I understand with my own life as an example. There was a time when I graduated university and I thought politics would be my life. I went to work for provincial government, worked for a couple MPPs and ministers, and I thought that was my life. And I got to the point where I was not very happy. The job became a lot more about getting reelected than doing good policy work. And I came to a point in my life where that story wasn't serving me anymore. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
Humans, we seem to have this innate nature or like some kind of receptivity to stories.
100%.
Yeah, something that crosses cultures and time. And
yeah.
What do you think is going on there? Why are stories so powerful for people, for your clients?
I think understanding the stories that we inherited, because most of our stories we inherited. We learned them from our family. We learned them from our teachers, our coaches, if we're doing sports or whatever, our mentors. We inherited culturally, we inherited these stories. And, they're powerful in the sense that they can keep us moving, they can keep us focused, they can keep us motivated, they can keep us in our lane. But there's a time where you have to be conscious of the story that you tell yourself and whether or not that's really the story that you want to live in.
Yeah, I get that.
So for instance, I work with right now, most of my clients, I would say, are emerging Black leaders. And the story that they have about themselves as being Black, maybe African American, is that they have to work harder than everybody else.
Right.
Okay, to get ahead. Well, that's not really a life-fulfilling story.
No, it's automatically setting up a barrier.
Yeah. And it creates stress, it creates anxiety, it leads to burnout. They never know if they belong anywhere and whatnot. So the work then is to, okay, what story do you want to have that's empowering you? Right? That yes, you could work, but take the comparison out. You don't have to work harder than everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
So what kind of exercises or tools do you use to help people rewrite these stories?
Well, I get them, one, to get aware of the story that they're living in right now. I get them to embody that story, to help them feel that story, the impact that the story has on them physically, emotionally, spiritually. So we're not thinking it through.
Yeah.
Right. But we're actually experiencing the story. So I use what's called somatic coaching, which really gets into the embodying, because we have, if we believe a story to be true and we're running up against that story and it's a limiting story, guess what? We're going to feel anxious. We're going to feel fearful. We're going to feel insecure. But those are bodily feelings. Those are emotional feelings, right? We can't just think our way out of them. So I use your body to give you some intelligence. Okay, how are you being right now? And how do you want to feel? How do you want to show up? So we go say, well, in your body, what does empowerment feel like? What does strength feel like? What does courage feel like? What does security feel like? And then you can start reshaping the beliefs that these stories have had on you into a new story. And then from there, we can get into, okay, resetting your values, getting to the core of what's important to you. What kind of impact do you want to make in your world? For your people at work, for your people at home, for you personally? Where do you want to be a contribution? Like, we start really getting conscious now of,
and not do it just as an intellectual exercise, but actually feel it, live
fully
it,
embodied. Because if it doesn't feel resonant within you, then it's not right for you.
Okay? And you call this somatic coaching?
Somatic coaching. Right.
This is sounding very familiar and almost similar to meditation, in a way that you can use awareness of the body to become more aware of what's the thoughts happening in your mind, the situations in your life.
Yeah.
Did you pick that up from there, or what was this?
Well, meditation is a means to somatics.
Right.
All right. So meditation, I would employ mindfulness training, meditation, any kind of that kind of practice to get tuned into your experience in the moment. Right. So absolutely. Anything to get you out of your thinking head into the other intelligence that you contain. So, meditation, journaling, quiet walks, time for yourself, time with other people, and just noticing what's arising within you physically.
Charles, you're speaking my language. All of these things you listed are like things that I crave, the things that have become a little bit more difficult with as a parent, right? You've got less time to go and have that solitude go for a walk. But when I did go for a walk this past Saturday, it was incredible. It was only 2 hours away from the house, but I found this amazing nature trail. And it's incredible how quickly I snap back into that like appreciation, spiritual awareness almost. And I think a lot of people miss out on that when they're just chasing things.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned quite a few things about just feeling like you don't have enough time.
Yes,
well,
yes.
Look at when you're tuned into that emotional energy that you carry day to day, and you realize actually how much energy you waste and burn off because you're fixated on the next thing. And then you get grounded and you practice on being grounded. You realize that you save so much more energy.
I believe it.
Right? That you can't tackle.
My life.
Then you can tackle on anything. Yeah. Right? Some would call this building resilience. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So the more time you actually take care of yourself, the more time you have, more energy you have available to you to do all the other things, including looking after your child.
Yes, I've noticed that. I unfortunately spend a little bit of time in any given week feeling like, I can't get to it today. I can't work right now. I gotta just, take some time to go for a walk again, and maybe that's the right thing to do. I realize that pushing is not a very effective strategy.
Right. So even just listening to the language that you had, and everybody does this. Oh, I don't have enough time, or I can't do this right now. Those are the stories I'm talking about.
I love that.
So imagine if you did have the time, even if it's 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, right? Instead of binging on Netflix or YouTube or whatever, go meditate.
Absolutely.
Go write a passage in your journal. It's not that you don't have it. It's just that you're not aware of the time that you do have.
That's a really great point. And I think a lot of people will be able to change their life significantly if they just start applying a little bit of that. I had, as another example of this, the power of this, I teach a couple of courses at Fanshawe College, and my brother teaches at Lambton College. So I was on the phone with him the other day, and we're talking about how it's going the start of the semester, and he's talking about how much marketing he has and how much marketing I have. I'm saying, look, it's taken me forever because I'm making all these notes for students and whatnot. And he gave me some a strategy to just do it quicker. And now I probably marked as many papers today in my between hours as I did in the last 2 weeks. So it's just a matter of, I think, framing it differently and not seeing the task as so overwhelming and daunting sometimes.
Yeah. Because there's where your energy leaks. When you see when you have those words or emotions or whatever that say, okay, this is overwhelming me, this is daunting, this is too much, I should be doing something else. Those are all what I call our emotional leakages.
Can you elaborate on that? I'm curious.
Okay, there's words, there's languages that we use that could serve us and empower us. We can be reminded of our core values, and that will bring aliveness in us, even when there's challenges. And then there's language that we use that just suck the living life out of you.
Absolutely.
So the what ifs, the shoulds, oh, I could be doing this, or, this is not for me to do. Why am I held responsible for this? All right. So when we're in that language, there's an emotion that comes with it. It's not emotional free.
Right.
Right. And when we're in that emotion or that way of being, it could either suck the life out of you, in which it slows you right down and everything becomes harder, right? Or it can empower you, in which that thing, you could spend countless hours doing it and you'd be full of life. You're thriving. You are, you're running on all cylinders. And at the end of it, you feel like, okay, accomplished, done.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we've all had those experiences where it just flows and you have worked 14 hours a day, but you feel just so not empty, but filled up.
Yeah. You feel, okay, I accomplished it. I got what I needed to get done and I feel good about it. Right. Versus, okay, I didn't get through my entire list. I got carried over to the next day and I'm never getting ahead and
Yeah, that idea of getting ahead just drives me crazy. It's getting ahead of what? Other people? Of what? I mean, you have set an arbitrary, most of the time, goal for yourself. What does this getting ahead mean? What is this epidemic of getting ahead, Charles?
I have no idea. I I have no idea. Because what does getting ahead mean? Meaning that there's no more work left? Well, here, if getting ahead means I've accomplished my entire to-do list and there's no more work left, here's a solution: quit.
Yeah. Take a break. Give yourself a pat on the back.
Quit.
Enjoy life.
Go home. Now
I
you're
heard a wonderful saying on this is that when you die, your inbox will never be empty. Always
when
something coming. When you die, your inbox will always be, have something in it.
There you go.
There's always more coming in, and if you're doing life right, of course, you don't have any lack of opportunities. So I don't quite understand the getting ahead thing, but
No, but that there, again, we have a story about what that means.
Yes.
Right. And, it could be, and when I hear that story, particularly, I can never get ahead. All right. What's the emotion that comes with it? What's the belief that comes with it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That'll never happen. It'll never occur. Right. It's futile. And the emotion, frustration, disappointment, anger, resentment. So why carry that along?
It's not helpful. You're right. You'd be much more productive if you perhaps, obviously change your stories, but maybe slow down as well. And all those good things. Take us in a slightly different direction. So
sure.
I noted that your business logo is a tree, and I kind of thought that was fascinating. What's the significance there? I'm sure there's a story.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the origin story first, and I'll break it down. Is that cool?
Please.
All right. So I did a meditation retreat one time, personal journey, on the edge of a friend's property, and I sat under a tree. Literally, the whole kind of Buddha Gautama thing story, right? Just to meditate, just to be with myself, not to achieve any kind of crazy enlightenment or whatnot, but really just get tuned in who I was being. And this was around my 40th year, right? And just take an audit of my life, right? Who I was being, how I was showing up, my career and everything like this, right? And that gave me a lot of sense of purpose. It really gave me a renewed sense of purpose, right? And when I decided to rebrand myself a few years ago, I went back to that tree, that idea of tree as being one that is that symbol for me that inspires growth. It inspires connection. It gives me a sense of wholeness, that I'm connected to all things. And there's a sustainability that comes with trees, right? Yes. So when I break it down, the roots of a tree connects me to everything. Connects me to my inner wisdom, connect me to my ancestry, connects me to earth, community, and whatnot. My trunk, if I look at the trunk, it sort of gives me structure. It gives me stability. I look at my values as things that stabilize me, right? I go back to my belief systems. I go back to my vision. Those things stabilize me. They keep me grounded. And then when I look at branches, those are the things that the world sees, right? This is me aspiring, achieving, accomplishing. I'm giving back to the world as much as I'm taking in, right? This is my full expression of who I am, right? Because you're enamored by the leaves, you're enamored by the branches, you're enamored by the flowers it has.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I want the world to see, is those things.
I'm so happy I asked that question, because I did not expect such a well-formed answer. That's great. Usually when you look at a logo, it's like, oh yeah, we paid a designer to do it, and it looked good. But you've actually given some real thought to that, which is really nice. That's really cool.
Yeah. So
you coach entrepreneurs, and as someone who started several businesses over the last 2 decades, I've been very lucky to work with some great coaches to help me with my business. What do entrepreneurs come to you seeking, and what is it that you help them do?
Well, good question. That's also changed over time. They used to come to me for strategic planning, accountability, and so forth. I think more and more now they're looking at how to balance their life while starting a business. How do they lead an organization more effectively, right? It's not about the day-to-day stuff, and it's not about planning. It's not about action plans and stuff, but it's more about, okay, well, I've got this thriving business now. right? How do I lead this? I've got people on my staff. How do I inspire them and grow them, right? How do I give responsibility away of something that like I feel deeply invested in?
Yes.
Right. So it's very easy for an entrepreneur to feel they have to be in control of everything. And that could often lead to burnout, stress, anxiety, fear, resentment. It could lead to a lot of things like that, especially when they start building teams. And, many of them might come and say, well, God, I feel like a babysitter sometimes. They're not getting it. Right. So this is about changing that narrative that they might have in your head of what it is to grow an organization. Right. There's something that's more empowering, fulfilling, inspiring, engaging, enrolling. So it's working through those things.
So it's almost like you're helping them evolve from being a business operator to being a business owner. You're helping them not work so much in their business, but on the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And be the leader that the business requires them to be. Mm-hmm. Right. Like they need to be, as your business evolves, you need to be the face of the business. Right. Well, then you have to let some of the stuff that you think you're good at, you need to train people to do that stuff. So you're not doing everything.
That's true. I mean, delegation is freedom in a lot of ways, right? That's hard to do.
The word I prefer to use is not delegating, but assignment of responsibility.
Okay. What's the distinction there for you?
For me, delegation has this air of I am giving you a task. I'm giving you a to-do list. I'm giving you something that you need to report back to me on. Okay. Whereas assigning a responsibility is like, okay, say product X needs a program manager. I'm assigning you the responsibility to manage this program. Okay. Now you have autonomy. Now I'm assigning you autonomy. I'm assigning you control. I'm assigning you accountability, all of that stuff. That doesn't come with delegation. Ownership, that doesn't come with delegation.
Yeah. And I think that's got to lead to much better outcomes than just having someone act as an employee who's collecting a paycheck. You give them something that they care about and give them some ownership of it. They really start to care beyond just how much can I get paid to do this work, right? Check
in, check out, get my check, right? Yeah. So it's, what you're touching on is the ownership, their engagement goes up, their sense of responsibility to the health of the organization it increases. And this is not so much the check anymore. Now they're looking at the work as a place that they can feel fulfilled.
Yes.
They can feel accomplished. So as an owner, that's what you should be striving for.
Absolutely. And I've heard it said that the limit on any business is sort of the leader, right? I think Shakespeare was saying this in one of his plays that, if the king is corrupt, the whole nation's corrupt, or something like that. I think it applies to business. If the leader is afraid of making sales calls, then there's going to be a problem with sales, right?
Right.
Something like that. How do you get an entrepreneur out of their own way, and how do you help them to sort of step into that role as leader? Help them get over their stumbling blocks.
Well, one is identifying the stories that they might be using to sabotage their own success, because it is sabotaging their success in a way, and shifting that limiting story into a more empowering belief or a more empowering mindset, right? So shifting that story from one that's disabling, that's sabotaging, to one that's more empowering and enlightens up it creates more powerful leadership in them. So it's just getting them tuned into the language that they're telling themselves about the relationship to their work, relationship to their employees, et cetera, et cetera. Especially if they think, oh no, everything depends on me. No, it doesn't. That's that limiting belief. That's that limiting story. Everything is all based on you, dependent on you. Okay, what's a more empowering story? Hey man, look, I have qualified people to support me.
Yes.
All right. And what does that give you? It gives you freedom, gives you choice, it gives you flexibility, agility, it gives you space. All right, then let's lean into that new way of being and give the work to somebody else.
Yeah, I'm part of a mastermind of other entrepreneurs, and there's this one gentleman in there who's been very successful in his career, and his day job is to help other business owners sell their companies. A bit of a financial guy, I guess. I don't know what you exactly call that, but he helps them with their exit strategy. And he says that the companies where the head of the company is entrenched there and doing all of the things and not assigning responsibility, they get a 1 or 2x multiple of their revenue. Whereas the ones that have built systems and taken the leader, the entrepreneur, out of the critical roles and started to assign those responsibilities, they get a 7 or 8x multiple. So there's also a monetary.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it up. I'll describe it this way. Entrepreneurs in your first scenario, right? They believe the business is them.
Yes.
That their business is their entire identity is attached to the business.
Is that just ego?
Totally, it is. Whereas the second scenario, that entrepreneur is actually building a business, right? I mean, building as if you could put it in a box and give it to someone else.
Yes.
It's not about their identity.
As opposed to like a personal brand or a cult.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm a solopreneur, right? I'm not building a team here. My business, my brand is me. Essentially, that is it, right? I'm a coach. If I wanted to expand this, if I actually want to make something of scale, I have to detach my business from my identity. In the sense that I have to enroll people, build systems, build brands, build products or whatever that's outside of who I am as an individual, but building a product that could be sold with or without me. Right. That's building a business. Right.
And how many of the clients that you work with are looking for that or in need of that?
It's a mixed bag, definitely. I can't quantify it now, but I've had individuals on both sides. I've had individuals who believe that their business with their identity go into more of a space where, okay, no, I am a leader. Yes, I have a business. All right. Now what can I do with that business? Right.
I want to ask you one more question about this entrepreneurship thing, because, for me, it's a very personal interest. I struggled with burnout for many years, for several businesses. And it's mostly because I try to do everything myself. I'm sure there are some stories that I still need to work on. I've become a lot better at this in balancing on my calendar, but that's really that's a calendar solution rather than a mindset solution. So I think maybe we have to talk more offline about this. But briefly, how do you teach entrepreneurs to avoid that burnout? I know it's stories, but what else?
They've got to build resilience. And what I mean by resilience is that they got to take care of themselves first.
Right.
And that means putting in place regular, if not daily, habits of taking care of their bodies, taking care of their mind, taking care of their spirit, so it doesn't lead to that. Burnout is I think is more of a cultural disease right now, because we work so hard, especially now with the exposure to Zoom and remote learn and working, and there's a lot of stress.
Yes.
And often we sacrifice taking care of ourselves, getting proper sleep, eating properly, drinking properly, exercise and whatnot. So I think for entrepreneurs and executives, the same, you need to prioritize your health.
That's good advice.
Even if it's 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night, go play a round of golf, tennis, whatever it is on the weekends. Shut your phone off, right? So you could do some quiet time. When you're eating, you're talking to somebody face to face. You're not binging on TV, just better life habits.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And you'll find a big difference in the amount of stress that you can take on.
That's very good advice. And I want to take us in a slightly different direction now. I'm trying to cover all these basics because I've got you, for this limited amount of time.
Yeah.
But you also coach couples. And
yes.
For me, this romantic relationship box is one of the most interesting aspects of the human experience. I get the sense that most couples have been facing new challenges in the lockdown world the last year and a half. So, for example, my wife and I, we've definitely been working on our communication. We've had some issues and some things that we needed help with. We've been working with a counselor. It's been great. We've come a long way. But what are some of the couple of things that you're seeing that are maybe caused by the pandemic? Because, going back to the burnout thing, I've seen the stats that people are actually working longer hours from home because there's no division between the workplace and the home. So I'm sure there's, other negative externalities that you could call them from in your relationships as well.
But the interesting thing I found in my couples work is it doesn't take the majority of my business, but I do quite a bit of this work. And even within my own relationship, funny enough is this: when my clients come to me aware and conscious of what they're dealing with, their communication booms, it's so solid. So what I'm seeing now is people, they're dealing with they're dealing with the same stress before the pandemic. The pandemic has only just made them conscious of that the stress is still there. It's not more or less, right, but it just gives them the reality, okay, you know what? I see my spouse or my partner every day now because we don't leave home. So we just got to take care of this stuff. Right. So
is it in a way a silver lining that because we're so what do you call this? We're bottled inside our houses. That's actually an opportunity to sort of face this stuff and work on it.
Take care of business, man.
Excellent.
So I think the clients that are coming to me are aware that they could do something about it, and they come to me for that. Right. Yeah. I'm not saying that
you attract the type of client that you want. So what's the secret there? Just be you.
Practice what I preach. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
No, my relationship, my relationship with my wife is the best it's been ever.
Fantastic.
Right. And I think we both attribute it to the fact that, we can't run away from each other.
No, we're my wife and I, we live in an open concept loft. Just before the pandemic hit, we moved the August before in 2019 into this beautiful place with, really high ceilings and an open concept. We don't have doors except on the bathroom. So we can't escape into our little, closets or something like that. And now we have a baby. It's, it's an exceptionally more close knit family. So it's actually been wonderful because we've become a lot more close. We've been forced to work on some things. So and what are the things that you're seeing couples struggle with usually?
Oh man. One, I think the one of the things that couples struggle with is a reconciliation of what they've taught, what they've learned about themselves individually, and what it is to be in relationship with somebody while being in a relationship with someone. And what I mean is that we learn how to be in a relationship very early on in our life. We learn it from our parents. We learn it from our friends. We learn it from our first boyfriend, girlfriend relationships, whatever. And then we mirror that or we project that into our current intimate relationship, the good and the bad stuff, right? And what you're contending with is a reconciliation of what it was like to see people in a relationship and how you want to be in relationship, right? And when I mean reconciliation is that both couples are doing the same thing. Both parties are doing the same thing at the same time.
And they've learned these things from their parents most of the time.
Most of the time we learn ways of being good and bad from our parents because that's their first love relationship we've ever been exposed to.
Yes.
Right. And it's harder if you've, maybe you grew up in a single parent family with an absent father or a disengaged mother or whatever like this. But that stuff shows up, that way of that knowledge, that story you tell yourself, everything, it shows up in your current relationship. Right.
And it will continue to show up until you start to challenge those stories, those beliefs.
Till you realize that that's your story that you're projecting into the relationship.
So is there an exercise or a bit of advice you can share with us that you use with your clients to help people challenge these stories?
One is recognize that's your story, right? And it's not about the other person. What the other person does is just brings it to life for you. So when you have a complaint about your spouse or about your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, check in to say that, okay, is it really them? Or is it what I know to be in relationship? Or just check in with yourself. For the other person on the other side, recognize it's not about you. Don't take it personally. If you're in conflict with your partner, they're complaining about you, it's not personal. They're just going through some stuff.
Yeah.
You just happen to be in the way.
my wife will confirm. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. If we, if I go into something I've learned is Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements.
I was just thinking of that. Don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally. Okay. Don't take it personally. If you trigger your spouse or your partner and their response is whatever it is, it has nothing to do with you. Not to say that you didn't do anything to trigger it, but the response is something that they learned from their past.
Yeah, I really noticed that the last year, I would say, with in my own relationship, where something will trigger me, and I know now that this is not something that's really warranted. The reaction is disproportionate to the trigger. Right?
Yeah.
But I have been working with a wonderful coach myself, so I believe that's important for coaches to do, is work with their own coaches. And she's been helping me to catch these things earlier. And when you're aware of the things that happen pre-anger, the catching it at an earlier and earlier stage, you're able to simply just walk away from it. And if you walk away from this thing and don't let that trigger be projected externally on your partner usually. You walk away for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you come back, it's a non-issue. You don't have the fight. You don't, you realize logically, okay, that was not a helpful response, and I can change it. I can do something different.
Right. No, absolutely. The more and more you can get aware of that, not just cognitively, I mean experientially, all layers. Sometimes we feel the trigger before we actually respond to the trigger.
Right.
You actually feel it emotionally, physically, spiritually before you say something.
Yeah, our subconscious mind is working much quicker than the consciousness, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you get tuned into, okay, I'm sensing stress in my chest or my shoulders and my neck and my jaw, wherever it is, then okay, something's going on, retreat. Right? Don't jump forward, jump back. Okay, it's okay.
Yeah, case in point, I was doing my taxes. It was just yesterday, actually, my business taxes. And, I woke up on the wrong side of bed, possibly because of I had to do my taxes today. And I was, an hour into it and, dealing with the government stuff, the paperwork, it's not pleasant. So I started to realize that I was getting a little steamed, right? And I caught myself in that moment. I said, is this really how I want to experience my day? Is this anger really serving me? Do I really need this right now? And the answer was obviously no. And I got up and I smiled and I laughed and I went downstairs and made a tea and I came back and I finished the damn taxes and problem solved. So
see, felt experience.
It's only taken me 40 years to learn that skill.
Dude, I'm 51. I'm still learning stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Taxes still stress me out.
Good. I'm not alone. Okay, I like to do that.
Taxes still stress me out. Yeah,
if we're doing it right, we're always learning. There is no. You mentioned enlightenment earlier, and I'm starting to wonder if this is not a shiny object at the top of the ladder. It's simply almost like a realization that everything's perfect as it is. And so when we stop trying to chase these things, it seems like we're a lot happier. So,
yeah, that there's just total acceptance of what's here in front of you.
Yes.
If you can accept what's in front of you, you're not wasting any energy on anything else.
Good. So I think that's a wonderful note to leave it on. But before I do that, I know you're a connoisseur of great quotes because you have a lot of them all over your website. So I appreciate them. Is there one that comes to mind right now that you want to share with us?
Oh man. Good question.
Narrow it down, I'm sure.
Now I'm going to go back to Don Miguel Ruiz. Don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally.
Don't take anything personally. It's not about you. Yeah. I think if we can live in. Sorry?
Anything else you want to share before we go?
No, I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
inviting me
too,
to do this with
Charles.
you. Yeah.
You too, Charles. Thank you for doing this. And what's the best place for people to find you online? Is it suwasing.com?
Yes, it's like my last name is suwasing.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Yeah,
Great.
that's the easier way to get me.
We'll put a link to that in the YouTube notes. And,
Thank you.
well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you, Michael.
conversation. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to reconnecting in person soon.
Yes. On the other side of the pandemic, absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah, see you on the other side, brother.
Yeah, man. Take care. Have a good one.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye.